throwing a jab hook right hand, followed by a hook. The last hook.
In an unexpected and controversial event, Jake Paul defeated boxing legend Mike Tyson in a fight that had fans talking for all the wrong reasons. On Saturday night at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, Jake Paul, the controversial YouTube star turned boxer, defeated Mike Tyson in a fight that drew both massive attention and widespread criticism. Tyson, at 58 years old, stepped into the ring for the first time since 2005 in what many saw as a risky and unnecessary return to the sport. Jake Paul, 27, earned the unanimous decision victory with scorecards reading 80-72, 79-73, and 79-73. While Paul celebrated the win as one of the biggest achievements of his career, the fight itself raised questions about its competitive integrity and the ethics of pitting a young, active athlete against a retired legend well past his prime.
After 8 full rounds, we go to the judges' scorecards for the official decision. Judge David Yakubuchi sees the contest 80-72, while judges Lawrence Cole and Jesse Reyes see it 79-73, declaring your winner by unanimous decision, Jake El Gallo Paul!
A legend returns to the ring. Mike Tyson's return was marketed as a Netflix-backed spectacle, drawing millions of viewers worldwide. For many, the event was an opportunity to witness a glimpse of the Tyson who once dominated the heavyweight division, becoming the youngest world champion in boxing history at the age of 20. Tyson's accomplishments in the sport are legendary. He went 37-0 before suffering a shocking defeat to Buster Douglas in 1990, in what remains one of the greatest upsets in sports history. Tyson went on to fight 20 more times, retiring in 2005 after a loss to Kevin McBride. Inducted into the Boxing Hall of Fame in 2011, his legacy seemed secure. However, Tyson's decision to return to the ring nearly 20 years after his last professional fight was met with widespread skepticism. Many questioned the wisdom of such a move, citing his age and long absence from the sport. Critics feared that Tyson's legacy could be tarnished by a subpar performance, and the fight ultimately seemed to validate those concerns.
God lets everything happen for a reason. It's all a learning process. From the moment you started getting into camp for this fight, what have you learned about yourself so far?
That I'm tougher than I believe I was.
Jake Paul. Jake Paul's journey in boxing has been anything but conventional. Starting his career as a social media influencer, Paul transitioned to boxing in 2020, taking on opponents ranging from fellow influencers to former UFC stars. His professional record now stands at 11-1, with notable wins over Tyron Woodley, Anderson Silva, and Nate Diaz. Paul's detractors often dismiss him as an entertainer rather than a legitimate boxer, accusing him of cherry-picking opponents. However, his ability to draw massive audiences and his undeniable commitment to training have forced even his harshest critics to acknowledge his impact on the sport. Saturday's fight against Tyson was Paul's most high-profile bout yet, cementing his status as a polarizing figure in modern boxing. The fight. The fight itself began with some promise, but quickly fell into a predictable pattern. Tyson came out aggressive in the first round, landing a few strong punches, including an overhand right that briefly pushed Paul onto the defensive. However, as the rounds progressed, it became clear that Tyson's age and long hiatus were taking their toll. By the third round, Paul had taken control of the fight. He utilized his jab effectively, landing crisp combinations and gradually wearing Tyson down. Tyson's offensive output dropped significantly, and his punches lacked the power and precision that once made him a feared opponent. Paul, on the other hand, appeared cautious, possibly out of respect for Tyson's legacy or concern for his own reputation. Despite dominating the fight, he didn't seem eager to go for a knockout, leading some fans to accuse him of holding back. By the final bell, the outcome was clear. Paul had landed 78 of 278 punches, 28%, while Tyson managed only 18 of 97, 18%. The judges' scorecards reflected Paul's dominance, though the lack of excitement in the fight left many fans disappointed. Mike Tyson talks about his fight with Jake Paul.
I got the rounds in me, so I'm not, listen, I'm sparring young guys, 30, 27 young guys. They hit me real hard. It wasn't a picnic when I first started training. I'm fighting with younger guys, and they're really giving me a shellacking at first.
Are you doing the shellacking now? Like the old Mike?
Doing my share, yes.
What's the most significant risk you're worried about heading into this fight with Jake?
What am I worried about?
Any risks?
No, not that I think of, not that I'm contemplating.
There's been a lot of back and forth between you and Jake about killing each other. Is that just the old Mike talking, or do you really feel that way?
Hey, listen, my intention is to go in there and fight hard and hurt.
Criticism from fans and fighters. The fight drew heavy criticism from across the boxing world. UFC superstar Conor McGregor was one of the most vocal detractors, calling the bout a 16-minute spar in sparring gloves in a since-deleted post on X, formerly Twitter. McGregor didn't hold back, adding, veteran boxing journalist Dan Rafael echoed the sentiment, describing the fight as sad to watch. He lamented Tyson's diminished performance, saying, Tyson looks like Tyson, but nothing left under the hood. The live audience at AT&T Stadium seemed to share this frustration, with boos growing louder as the fight progressed. By the 8th and final round, the crowd's disappointment was palpable. After the fight, Jake Paul was gracious in victory, praising Tyson as one of the greatest boxers of all time. He's exactly what I thought, one of the best to ever do it, Paul said. It's such an honor. He's a legend. He's the greatest to ever do it. I look up to him. I'm inspired by him. Tyson, for his part, was reflective but non-committal about his future in boxing. When asked if he would retire again, he replied, I don't think so. Maybe the brother, Logan Paul. Many fans and analysts, however, hope Tyson will hang up his gloves for good, arguing that continuing to fight at his age poses unnecessary risks to his health and legacy. The Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight is a prime example of how boxing is evolving, or devolving, depending on who you ask. Traditionalists argue that events like this undermine the sport's credibility, turning it into a sideshow rather than a serious competition. On the other hand, Paul's ability to draw massive audiences cannot be ignored. The event broke records for gate revenue, generating over $17.8 million, and Netflix reported that its servers crashed due to high demand. This financial success highlights the growing influence of celebrity-driven boxing events, even as they face criticism from purists. While the main event left much to be desired, what's next for Jake Paul? Following his victory over Tyson, Jake Paul wasted no time in plotting his next move. When asked who he wants to fight next, Paul confidently declared, anyone I want. Everyone is next on the list. One name that Paul mentioned was Canelo Alvarez, the reigning pound-for-pound king of boxing. While a fight between Paul and Alvarez seems unlikely at this stage, Paul's ambition underscores his desire to be taken seriously as a professional boxer. Paul's journey from YouTuber to professional fighter has been polarizing, but his growing influence in the sport is undeniable. Whether he can continue to elevate his level of competition remains to be seen.
So this goes perfect. You go out there, you knock out Mike Tyson. Do you have a call out in mind, or you don't have to necessarily say it on here, because I know sometimes that's a special event in itself, is the winner, who they call out, what's next?
It's Canelo. I mean, me versus Canelo at 200 pounds for the cruiserweight championship of the world. It makes so much sense, and Canelo's on his way out. He's gonna want a payday, and I want to show the world that all the shit I've been talking about beating Canelo is actually true, and I'll have the biggest upset in the sport of boxing, and we will fight to really see who is the face. I beat his gate record in Texas. I'm beating the ticket sales. I have more followers than him, etc. I'm going to be the new money man. This fight should be for a belt, and it makes the most sense at cruiserweight.
Mike Tyson's legacy. Should he stay retired? For Mike Tyson, the fight was a bittersweet reminder of his storied past and the inevitable effects of time. While his courage and willingness to step back into the ring were admirable, the fight underscored the risks of pushing beyond one's limits. Tyson's legacy as one of the greatest heavyweights of all time remains secure, but performances like this risk diminishing the aura that once surrounded him. Many fans and analysts hope Tyson will use this fight as an opportunity to retire for good, preserving his legendary status.
To work in the gym, it's good to get boxing, and it's good for, training and endurance. But nothing's like being in the ring and fighting.
Mike, is it frustrating to train like you did and then have this in 7 or 8 seconds?
For this fight, I only trained probably 2 weeks or 3 weeks for this fight.
The Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight was a night of contrasts. On one hand, it showcased the power of celebrity and the evolving nature of modern boxing. On the other hand, it highlighted the ethical and competitive challenges of pitting aging legends against younger opponents. For Jake Paul, the victory adds another high-profile name to his list of defeated opponents, further solidifying his place as a disruptive force in the sport. For Mike Tyson, the fight was a valiant effort, but ultimately a reminder of the limitations of age. As boxing continues to evolve, events like this will likely remain a point of contention. Whether they represent the future of the sport or a departure from its traditions, one thing is clear: they capture the world's attention.